What is going on, everybody? Welcome on back to another episode of the Release Valve in Mental Warfare. I am your host, Sean Hanlon of the Release Valve, and joined again by my brother from another mother, Kyle Spain of Mental Warfare. Welcome back, sir.
Welcome back. I'm so glad to be back. So glad to be back. You know, these things often, as we talk about, are more times than not hard to get to. But it's like working out, right? It's hard to get to the gym sometimes, but you know, once you're in there, you get moving. You start to feel better. You know, so
Right.
now that we're here, everything is all good. But you know, it's not easy to get here, right?
It was a struggle, man. Literally up until the last few seconds of getting on here, I have like this is going to sound hilarious. I have like a piece of a chicken nugget stuck in my pathway.
Oh my gosh!
As I was trying to get it down or get it to come up, and it wasn't doing either. So I'm just I'm battling through right now.
All right,
We're here though. A chicken nugget, Kyle. A chicken nugget.
Yeah, that's hilarious. It reminds me. Did you ever watch that movie? What's that GameStop movie? What's it called? But anyways, welcome back, people of the world. It is so good to be back. As you guys all know out there, that the enemy is always on attack. That life has its obstacles on a daily basis, and there's nothing that you can do to avoid it, but to prepare yourself for it. You know, we talked about this, Sean, more times than not in these past couple of weeks, talking about defense and defense wins championships, and if we can be more prepared of those obstacles, then we can be more prepared to approach them. You know, knowing that they're going to come, we can better be, you know, just having that awareness of what's to come. Because we continue to fall into that state of mind of thinking our days are going to go perfect, or not necessarily thinking our days are going to go perfect, right? But not understanding that our days aren't going to be perfect. I think there's a big difference.
Right.
So constantly trying to adapt new concepts, trying to build new habits, trying to build new mental tools, right? Build mental weapons, so we can continue to battle the enemy, battle life, and continue to, you know, inch our way to our goals, to our purpose, to our future, to our dreams, right?
Absolutely, man. And I think that one of the major things that, at least speaking for myself, one of the major things that I tend to get caught up in is like we've talked about before, being at A and looking at Y and looking at Z and getting overwhelmed, and not giving myself enough credit for even just having the mindset of wanting to get better, wanting to advance, not just just advance in as many aspects of life as I possibly can. I spent a long time going through life, just kind of going through life, not really having a plan or anything, and definitely not looking to really get better at anything, and not
walking aimlessly through the world,
walking aimlessly, Kyle, and not having my eyes open and my ears open to all of the opportunities that I had going on around me. And then getting mad at why things weren't working out, the way that I wanted them to work out. And having the mindset that I have now, looking to get better, giving myself some grace, because I know that what I'm doing is looking to get better, and I'm not always going to be able to advance or get better every single day. But even just having that mindset of wanting to, I think it is one of the major differences. Excuse me. The piece of chicken nugget went down, and I'm feeling so much better now. But having the mindset of, like I said, of wanting to get better, and not getting upset when I don't advance at something during the day, right? Because sometimes I'll beat myself up, like, oh, I didn't do this, I should have done that. I had the coulda, woulda, shouldas of life type of thing, but giving myself some grace, understanding that I am on this path, on this journey of self development and growth, and I am looking to get better. And that in and of itself, I'm already in a better position, at a better starting point than I was, back in the day, type of thing.
Of course.
Man, I had you had said something that I was looking to circle back around to, but the damn chicken nugget threw me off, and then I was trying to regain my thoughts. But speaking of jumping ship a little bit, speaking of back in the day and having the mindsets and wishing that things were different, or having the mindset that I have now, wishing I had it back then, type of thing. You had talked about it before we got on here, and we've kind of touched base on a few of these things here and there about what we wish we had if we were younger, or what we would have done differently, type of thing. And you had brought it up before we came on. What if you could go back to any age and redo a specific event? What is that? What age? What's the event? What happened, and what would you do differently?
That's a great question, which is the topic of the day, people of the world. What would you do if you can go back in time? And there's obviously more events than one. But
Right.
I feel like when you ask that question, a time in the past that pops out to me the most is college. Being in high school, or being a basketball player, and just thinking that my talent itself was going to get me to the NBA was foolish thinking. And if I had the mindset that I had now, given the experiences, of course, right? We're all going to have these experiences of wishing we can go back, because times were different. We didn't know what we didn't know what we know now. We didn't have the same experiences. Life looked different than it does now, especially with having kids in the mix, right? But I would have went back, and I guess the first and main thing, if I could have done anything, because it's not that I didn't work hard, right? But if there was one thing that I could have done differently as far as my athletic career, was to stretch and to get mobile. Had I done that over anything, my career in basketball would have been completely different.
Right.
And that's what I would have done differently going back then. So I'll stop right there, because there's so much more that I want to dive in, as far as like the opposite end of that, meaning like, if I could, I would have, but like, where would I be now if that would have been different?
Right.
So I'm gonna ask you, because there's a lot of moments. Well, maybe we'll do like a little back and forth. We go one moment, and the second moment, what would your third moment be? So if what moment for you pops up into your head?
I have quite a few moments, like you said, that throughout my life that I wish I would have done differently, or been more prepared for, or whatever. And first and foremost, it's hard for me to go back too far, because of my kids. And so if I go back too far, then I feel like I'm wishing against having them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a weird thought process. So the real what if, I would say, what if I did this different? I think it's more so just having a plan. I don't necessarily have like I said, I have quite a few specific moments I wish I did differently, or handled differently, or whatever. But the overall thing in my life is I didn't plan anything. I didn't start even thinking about, the next day until a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. Maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I started thinking about, what I wanted to do with myself and stuff like that.
Well, let me ask you real quick. What 5-6 years ago? What was it that made you start thinking about it?
I mean, definitely the birth of my daughter. Because again, and I've said it before, you know, it definitely, when she was born, I didn't have this immediate switch, or maybe I did, but I didn't recognize it at first. And it wasn't until things started happening in my life from that point on that I realized that I had a different feeling towards things.
Yeah.
And it was one of those like, all right, what is that? I need to, you know, I recognized it, but what is it? I acknowledged it, but I don't know what's going on there. And you know, I almost feel like the Grinch, you know, when at the end when he's talking about, you know, oh, I'm feeling, right, like, you know, but yeah, like just thinking about things would arise, and I would realize that, you know, oh, I wasn't ready for this. I want to be ready next time, or you know, I just started. That's when I just started thinking about how I wanted to go about things. It was always just day to day from before that. So after she was born, or even just having the conversation about having kids, my wife and I, before we were married, you know, we talked about it. And even just having that conversation or having those type of conversations really just kind of sparked that forward thinking in myself. And it took me a while to kind of figure out how to go about that, because like I said, I spent a long time not thinking about what I wanted to do with myself, you know, what I was going to do tomorrow, you know, anything like that. I just kind of went wherever the wind took me, you know. So it took me a little while to get into that type of mindset, and to figure out how to go about it, how to start planning things, how to communicate. And then it was almost like, oh man, now that I have this mindset and this type of forward thinking of where, you know, I want to save money, I want to start investing in things. You know, I had never even thought about buying a house or anything like that before. And credit to my boy Neil, he just kind of brought it up with me one day. What didn't really have anything else going on. He's like, you know, why don't you look into getting a house? I was like, oh man, I can't get a house. Like, I don't even know what that looks like. He was like, man, just, you know, here's the contact information of the person that he went through when he got his house. He was like, just hit him up, give him your information, just have a conversation with the guy. If it doesn't lead to anything, then you're in the same exact situation that you're in right now. So what does it matter? So, all right, cool. So, you know, hit him up. And, you know, I was pre-approved, yeah, and it was super quick. He was like, all right, yeah. So if you want to start looking at houses, you know, this is your price range, start checking it out. And it was like, whoa, I can look at a house. Like I can actually get a house by myself, like just me. You know what I mean? Like, obviously I was going to bring my fiance and her son in too, but it was just one of those, like, as far as being able to actually get it, I didn't need anybody or anything. I could just go and do that myself. What else can I do? You know, what else am I capable of? And again, so once things started happening from that point on, it just sparked this whole thought, this whole different mindset of how I view things and how I look at them. Now it's very hard for me to look at right here, right now, to almost to slow things down and enjoy what I have going on directly in front of me, because I'm looking so far ahead all the time now. But to bring it back, you know, that's one of my not biggest regrets, but just, you know, biggest what ifs in life. I wish that I could have had this type of mindset earlier, and it didn't take, you know, having a kid for me to start thinking about, oh, you know, what am I going to do tomorrow? You know?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, I mean, it all kind of, like, it kind of all circles in, it all ties in kind of to the same thing as far as basketball. And I have a specific moment of when I was in France, and my coach, even though his perspective on life and basketball is a lot different from an American, you know, going to a different country, right? You know, it was a grind, right? And so I you know, I talked to my wife about it often. You know, basketball is my life, but I can't say that I was the happiest person playing basketball. I can't say that I was like, oh man, I absolutely love what I'm doing. However, I did take it for granted. You know, there was a comment that he made while we were in a huddle one time, and he's like, "You guys have the best job in the world." And while some of that is true, like I said, his perspective on it is different. When you're in your own country playing basketball in your hometown, you're in your comfortability, you're with your people, you're with your language. You know, there's certain barriers that you don't have to break down. So that's what made it a little bit more difficult being overseas. But I that thought was like, I heard it, and obviously it stuck with me, but I didn't apply it. You know, it wasn't like, yeah, like you do have the best job, and it only takes experience after it has been taken away, right, for you to realize that you have something, right? Because it's always that, you know, you have to get something taken away for you to understand what it meant for you, and what the opportunity that you had in front of you, and which is why God wants you to be present all the time, because of the opportunities that are within itself, right? A lot of the times we are thinking about the things that we don't have so much that we forget about the things that we do have. And then when those things that are taken away within the now, it's not realized until it's been taken away, which is unfortunate for a lot of us people in the world, right? Which is why we live in regret.
Right.
So I wish I would have taken my opportunity, regardless of it being a grind. I should have known more of it being a grind and really taken it seriously and utilized my time better while I was over there, versus going through the motions and being stuck in the like, wow, I don't like, wow, like I want to get home. Just always thinking about, like, it's like school. It was like school, bro, to be honest. You know, school starts the beginning of the year. It's like, damn, like we got a whole 9 months until until school's over, right?
Right.
And so that was kind of my thought process going into overseas. It was never easy leaving home to go overseas. Like I would cry every time, bro. Like leaving my family behind, it was never easy. But I should have I wish I would have had the mindset then and been like, okay, this is what you have to do. So you're gonna have to make the most out of it. Like do everything that you need to do. So it was worth it. But, you know, I was never taught or shown, you know, to work within that mindset. So I never did it. You know, 10 years of my life playing overseas, I went through the motions more so than utilizing the opportunity and take advantage of it. So I think that would be my second wish if I could have gone back, you know, just taking my career not more seriously, but more as a blessing versus you know, like a curse. I guess blessing. I guess I wouldn't say curse. Curse is a lack of a better word, but there wasn't a goal for me. You know, I was just obviously I wanted to make X amount of money, but it wasn't like I sat down and like, all right, this is the goal. Right, this is what I'm going to do so I can reach that goal.
Right.
Like, and
what are the steps?
Exactly. What are the steps? Like I said, I was just going through the motions, right? Just playing basketball and, you know, practicing here, but I was never like trying to, you know, get that much extra time in after practice because I wanted to get home back to my wife, which was cool, you know, but at the same time, there should have been more for me. But like I said, I was stuck in like the misery, like, damn, this is tough. Like I'm not at home. I wish I was at home. Like, you know, like this
kind of
isn't
the poor
easy.
me mindset.
Exactly. So
right.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
same exact thing, man. You know, you're just kind of blissfully going through life, not really thinking about what it is you're doing, how you're doing it, how you're going about it. Right. You're just kind of looking at that next situation, or, you know, how do I get out of what I'm in right now so that way I can go over here and get to what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
And again, not breaking down, you know, all right, well, how do I get there? How do I make the most of this situation? How do I get more out of what I'm doing here so that way I have more over there? You know, again, you know, not having that right mindset and you know, not having the right people on your team. You know, this is me on the outside looking in of your situation. You know, not having the right support system, and again, being overseas, you know, being outside of your comfort zone, not having people to represent you out there, really.
Yeah.
You know, and not really having that, pun intended, release valve.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's tough, man. And on top of that, you're a lot younger, less experience. You don't know as much, so it's hard to navigate. Obviously, again, going through everything that you've gone through leading up to where you are now, you have all that experience, and like you've said before, what comes with experience is knowledge.
Yeah.
Exactly. So now you're looking back on the situation and saying, oh man, should have done this, should have done that, I should have known better. But again, we don't know what we don't know, and that's the hardest thing in my life. I feel like that I struggle with the most is I don't know a lot. You know what I mean? I spent a long time not learning, and a lot of those developmental years, not picking up good habits. And so so now, I'm older and I have a ton of bad habits, and I'm trying to figure out how to better myself while still dealing with those bad habits. You know what I mean? So I got to try to unhabit myself and figure out better ones.
Yeah, and install new habits.
Install new ones at the same time of while I'm trying to figure out all these other things, It's hard, man. And like I said before, I never really looked at myself as being the enemy of my own life. I was always looking at somebody else as the enemy or the problem or the obstacle. And a lot of the times, including now, even to this day, I'm the obstacle. I'm the problem. I'm my own enemy. And I feel like I'm better at being my own enemy than I am at just being myself. You know what I mean? And going forward and bettering myself and figuring things out, I get in my own way more often than not. And I've kind of reached a point in my life to where I'm so tired of how things are set up and the way things are going for me, and it's because of like I said, all those bad habits that got me to this point. It's not easy realizing that you're the one that needs to change. You're the one that needs to get better. You're the one that needs to stop doing a lot of the things that they're doing in order to get to where you want to be. It's so much easier to point blame on others, to play the victim, to say that it's somebody else's fault or something else's fault is the reason why you're in the situation that you're in.
Yeah, so, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. That's where I'm at right now.
Man, I don't even know how many minutes we're in right now. 24 minutes. Bro, I've got so many notes from what you just said, and oh my gosh, bro! Like these episodes, these podcasts, bro, are just phenomenal, and people of the world, we are going to be looking to be doing more of these. It's because iron sharpens iron, man, and these are thought-provoking information. This is thought-provoking dialogue, and where should I start? I'm just gonna start with mindfulness, emotional awareness, and why it's important to journal. And even myself, I haven't been consistent with my journaling, and when I am journaling, my days are that much better. I'm more mindful, right? I have more emotional awareness, and what I do in my journals when I'm journaling is being mindful of that moment, right? Assessing my emotional state at that time, and asking myself why I feel that way, right? Because often we live Groundhog Day, right? Often we live in a cycle, and a lot of us are in bad moods, which I was for the longest time, which is another part of mindset that I want to talk about. That's another that's another it's another ship right there. But emotional awareness and asking yourself why you feel that way, because there's always an answer for your emotional state, right? There's always things that you can point from, and being aware of that emotional state will allow you to pick and point out those things that are causing you to feel that way. And if there's something that you can do about it, which most cases 100% of the time there is, then those necessary steps need to be taken in removing that habit or removing whatever it is that's causing you to feel that way. Now, there are a lot of things and a lot of people, or, stimuli, events, things, whatever the case is, that are in your environment that are going to be hindering you. And that's also something that needs to be taken into account, right? Whoever's in your circle that's bringing you down. And unfortunately, there's a lot of relationships that we have that are holding us back from our purpose and happiness and fulfillment. And that could be a close family member, unfortunately. And those relationships and connections aren't easy to sever. But if it means your growth and happiness, dream, first of all, you got to dream, right? Because a lot of people that I've talked to don't even have dreams, which is just absolutely baffling to me. But happiness is ultimately where all of us are trying to, not all of us are striving to be, but we all should be striving to be happy. And we need to be figuring out what's not making us happy and removing those things. I call them burdens, the weeds. We talk about your garden, right? If you have a garden of flowers, you're going to have the weeds. And if you don't remove the weeds, your garden isn't going to be as pretty as it could be, right? And so those burdens are the things.
You can't just garden. You got to weed too.
Yeah, you have to. And what do you do with those weeds? Of course you can whack them with the weed whacker, right? But you got to pull them from the root, right? You have to remove it, right? You have to take it out,
right? And
that's what we have to do with the things that are surrounding our lives. We have to remove the weeds in order for our garden to flourish. Right. And a lot of us have a lot of weeds, man. So emotional awareness definitely is something that I'd like to execute, or I'd like to act on a daily basis. And like I said, I haven't been consistent with that. And so that's something I want to be better with this week. And speaking of being better for the week, today I was my son, he's been going through the cycles too. It's just like, you're not listening to this, right? Of course, the kids, right? But today I asked him, I said, Tyson, this is what I want you to do in order for you to watch something. And I want you to write 5 things down that you want to be better at this week. And I'm like, boom, light bulb. I'm like, oh shit, okay. Well, let me write down like some things.
Right.
Let me write down 5 things. And this is the beauty of having kids, people. Like, I absolutely love kids for more reason than one, right? And the main reason is like the knowledge and the learning that I get from them. If you can allow yourself to put yourself in their shoes, when you're teaching them things, right? When you're trying to discipline them with things, like asking yourself, is this what you're doing for yourself in life, right? And it'll allow you to reflect on your life and help you be better about things, just like this one, right? So I'm like, well, listen, like I'm going to write down 5 things that I want to be better at this week, right? Because then it allows us to have that focus, and we're not going into the days aimlessly like we talked about. Because without the plan, it was like, what's that quote? It's like, if you don't plan, what is it? If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. Right. And so it's just like going into the gym without a workout plan, and you're spending so much time trying to figure out what you're going to do versus having some type of structure, right? Having some type of structure and being able to get what you need to get done more efficiently and in less time. Man, look.
Even just thinking about going to the gym is a step in the right direction. And getting to the gym is a step in the right direction. All we're saying is that you can better take those steps. You can take the same steps, but be more prepared to do it. Take the same steps, but your stride's a little bit better. So now you took a little bit further of a step, and you're getting that much further in your process. That's all that we're saying, that there are, most people just need, myself included, just need a minor little tweak, minor little adjustments on what we're doing or how we're going about it, and just start there. Just start with something small that you can work on a little bit. That's easy, easy enough to obtain and build off of that positive momentum.
Yeah,
You know,
bro.
because I definitely don't want to take away from anybody that you know counts the checks that are in the win column, and not, you know, give credit when credit is due, because again, it all, when we talk about mindsets, you know, a lot of the times that's all that it is just adjusting your mindset. It may seem simple, but obviously that's a lot harder to adjust your mindset than, you know, it's a lot harder to do than it is to say it. So I definitely want to let people know that even if you're having the smallest bit of a adjustment of your mind, that's a win. Count that
Absolutely.
as a win and use that as momentum to keep on going, and count some more wins, and build off of that, right?
And I like that, and that's another thing too that I'd like to journal. And this is even, I'm more consistent with journaling in the morning, but journaling in the evening is something that I've been hit or miss with. But you know, I
Why do
do
you think
have a
that is?
fatigue, focus.
Right.
Focus at the end of the day. Most of the time, I'm just like, man, I want to decompress and I want to go to sleep, right? You know, which has not been the case for me most recently. You know, things have changed a lot for me in the
Now, when
most
you
recent
journal
weeks.
in the morning, do you do it first thing, open your eyes, and you start writing, or do you kind of get into the groove of the morning, and as thoughts and stuff are starting to hit you, then you go back and write it? Do you write here and there, like a little sentence here, a little sentence there? Like, how do you go about your writing?
That's a great question, and this is holding me accountable. You know, now thinking about it, because what's most effective for me, and this is not something that I do every time, but this is part of a routine that I need to establish so I'm most effective in my day. So waking up in the morning and immediately, you know, getting on my knees and thanking God and praying for God, praying to God immediately will help will help my thought process off jump, right. But then immediately going into the journal and that mindfulness, that emotional awareness, and figuring out my thoughts and putting my thoughts on paper so I know what's going on, so I'm not sitting in that thought cycle for so long, right? So getting up and you know, praying and then doing it immediately. And if I'm not doing that immediately, then I need to be exercising immediately, because that's what gets the thought cycles flowing. That's what gets the thought cycles flowing, flushing out that fog and that mental funk, which will allow those thoughts to, you know, to be more productive and effective thoughts. So getting up in the morning and doing that is what's been most effective for me. But like I said, I'm working on consistency, and everyone is, right. But I'm going to, and this is something that I wanted to say too. The things that we all need to get rid of, the phrases that we need to get rid of, are I'm about to, I'm going to, I'm going to start. Because it's like, when is that going to happen? Like, when are you going to? Like, I'm about to do this. Like, but did you? Right. But I want to go back to the celebrating those little wins, and I feel like journaling in the evening will help, you know, facilitate that process as far as how did I get better today, right? And that's along the lines of being grateful and having some gratitude versus, you know, thinking about all the negatives that have happened, and that'll allow us to propel us forward, is thinking about that little win, like you talked about, right? It's like,
Yep.
oh, that little mental adjustment, you know, count that as a win, you know, give yourself some grace. And you know, the company that I work for, after every you know, appointment that we have, they ask us, all right, what is your 5 and 2, right? And as easy as it is to point out all of the wrongs that you did, it's actually that much harder to point out all the good that you did. But what it does, it helps stimulate your mind and it helps focus on the things that you did well versus thinking about all the
Right.
things that you did wrong. And so I'm like, for me, you know, I'm a decent critique of myself, and so I'm trying to figure out everything that I did wrong so I can fix it. But at the same time, it's not as healthy because I'm not focusing on the things that I did better on, right? Things that I'm like, okay, well, I got better on this part. So it's 5 things that you did better, that you did well on, that you felt like you did well on, and you have to figure it. No, it's like, no. What are these 5 things that you did good, right? And you got to sit there and you think about it, right? And most people don't do that. We always think about the negatives, and then it's 2 things that you want to work on. So the positive is always outweighing the negative, right? And I wanted to. There's so many things that I wanted to get to. I'm gonna jump back to the mindset of like not knowing what we know now, and the experience that we have after whatever it is that we're going through that allows us to reflect back and be like, I wish I would have done that differently. My advice to you people of the world, and this is something that I'm working on as well, is find out what you don't know now, right? What is your now situation, and how can you utilize the situation that you're in to propel you to help you get to your later? What is your situation now, and how can your situation now get to your later? Is what I wrote down. And while I was thinking about being overseas, like I should have utilized that opportunity, because there are a lot of opportunities that come across our lives and that we don't even notice. And people often wish for opportunities, but God actually puts a lot of opportunity in front of us, but we're just not prepared to handle them. Right? And so given your situation now, and a lot of us are in a situation that we aren't content with, but how can we utilize our now situation to get us to where we want to get to? Is my question for you people of the world. And that's not just the only one, but
yeah, I think it's good to think, think ahead, think about that plan, think about that goal, think about what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and then break it down. How do I get there? What does it look like getting there? Like using you as an example, you're playing overseas and you're like, all right, I want to play in the NBA. I come over here, I play good, I'll go to the NBA. Not really thinking about all of these other extra steps that you could have taken to get a better chance of going into the NBA, right? You could have had more workouts, more conversations, more better exposure to yourself somehow. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of things on the fly, but there's a number of different things, right, that you probably could have done now that looking back on it, that you could have done differently. So I think just having the mindset, or just being able to look at what it is that you want, having the mindset of being able to break it down of how do I get there, and I think having conversations with people, it definitely helps, because again, having your own internal dialogue is only going to get you so far. You don't know what you don't know, right? So having conversations with people may help you. You have 10 conversations with people about 10 different things, and you're able to pull one thing away from every single one of those, right? Yeah. By itself, that's not that much, but accumulatively, you just gain so much more just by having those conversations. You had 10 conversations, you took one thing away from it. Yeah. With that person, you do that 10 times, right? You have that much more things that you're pulling away from it. So
I love that.
Having conversations with people, having conversations with different people, having different conversations with different people helps, like you said, it sparks the thought-provoking, they're thought-provoking conversations. So it's getting your mind to start thinking about things differently. Hearing other people's ideas or their thoughts on, maybe how they would go about it if they were in that situation may spark that something in your brain that allows you to see something else clearer now, and now you know how to approach it. Again, talking about being my own worst enemies, we're all the same in that regard. We're all going to have our own, mental blocks that we're not, half of them we're not even aware of, right? So if you can have conversations with people, they are not going to have those same blocks that you have. So again, they're going to be able to see things a little bit differently. They may have, different perspectives. They may have experience in some of the things that you're talking about or whatever. But again, the more you talk about it, the more that you open yourself up, the more that, one, you may realize you may not have wanted what you thought you wanted. It could spark something different in you, right?
Yeah.
You may realize that it was the image that you were in love with, but not the actual, lifestyle of it.
Right.
And so, it can completely change, how you feel about something just by trying to figure out how to pursue it.
Yeah.
Man,
absolutely.
I would like to do that, but I'm not really looking to put in all that kind of effort and energy. I don't want to do it that bad. So let me try to find something else that I do want to put in that effort and energy, right? Have the conversations, because that's another thing, man. I was a big dreamer as a kid, but I wasn't a big talker about said dreams. I was more, quiet and, almost embarrassed about a lot of the things that I used to dream about, and I didn't think that other people would like them or think it was cool, or it may change their perspective of me if I talked about it. So I didn't want to talk about those type of things. But again, some of my closest friends and ones that I'm still close with today are all of those people that I did open up to. Mm-hmm. All of the people that I did talk to about all of my hopes and dreams and desires and stuff like that. And not even realizing that, part of that was because, the reason why we're so close is because I was opening up and they were opening up with me. So, it's one of those, like, kind of bringing it back full circle, even for myself with this podcast. The more that I open up, the more that I learn, the more that I allow other people to open up with me, the more that I learn, the more that I learn about things that I'm interested in, the more I learn about things that I'm not interested in, and I reaffirm why I'm not interested in them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having conversations, opening up, talking about what it is that we have going on, even if it's our hopes, dreams, desires, our wishes, things that we want to accomplish, goals that we're looking to achieve. It just makes everything so much better, so much more clear, so much. It allows my feelings to just, like I said, reaffirm how I feel about things.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I guess that's another one that I wish that I would go, I could change if I could go back, is I would talk more about what it is that I'm thinking and feeling.
Absolutely. I got a couple of things out of that.
I'm going on tangents tonight, man.
but the thing is, this is what happens when we get on here. I'm like mad. I'm looking at the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, we still have so much to talk about. But even as we're talking about it right now, right? Your internal thoughts sound differently than they do externally, outwardly.
Right.
Right. As we get to talking about whatever we're talking about and expressing how we're feeling, as we're speaking, we're getting new thoughts, and their new ideas are being generated from what we're saying. And it's that thinking about it right now, it's like you get more provoking thoughts when you're able to be vulnerable with somebody and talk to somebody, let alone getting information from what they have to say from it. And there's something that I wanted to touch back on with you, which I think is extremely important for all of us to focus on a daily basis, even for myself, developing that plan. But thinking about where we want to be, and ultimate question is, how do we get there? Mm. Because often we compare our lives to other people, right? We see other people with said lavish cars, and let's just talk about the people who are living a lifestyle that looks similar to the lifestyle we want to live. And oftentimes, us people in the world, we're like, poor me, why me? How come they got what they have and I don't?
Right. Must be nice. They got got handed something that I didn't, so that's why they got what they got. Yeah.
But why don't we approach the situation a little bit differently, and instead of being jealous of that person, how about try and figure out the steps it took to get there? Because everyone looks at the Z product. They always look at the product, but they forget about everything that went into getting that product.
Right.
And I think that is huge, what you said about what are the steps does it take to get there? And if you're not willing to make those steps, then it's on you. Like, you can't blame that
And
person.
don't get mad that you're not going anywhere, right?
Exactly. I think that's super important, because a lot of us envy and have jealous of other people. But it's like, well, what did that person do? Like, did you do exactly what they did and you're not getting the results? Because that's something different. I can understand that maybe like, did you do exactly what they did and like you're still in your position right now? I doubt it. I highly doubt it.
How often does that happen? Yeah.
Right. No, it doesn't, because
Not often enough.
right. It doesn't. But what you said though too about those conversations, having that one conversation at a time, and instead of trying to get 10 conversations in one, I think that's another problem. We can't. It's hard for us to focus on incremental progress. You know, we're always thinking about the big picture, which is fine, but it's like we talk about those steps. How about we focus on the necessary steps that it takes and focusing on that step alone, right? If we're talking about a staircase, you can't get to the top of the staircase without that first step, right? And it's about learning how to focus on that first step, and that second step next is what's going to eventually lead us to the top, to that 10th conversation. And I think that was huge, because that's even for me. It's like, all right, I want to be good at something so badly, right? But I have to understand that there's a process, right? What are the steps that I need to take and focus on right now in order for me to get to set goal? And us following a process, or not even having a process to begin with, is going to leave us stuck in Groundhog Day. It's going to leave us stuck in that cycle. So I love that. What else was there? But all right, going back, a question for you. So a lot of us, in our new experiences and our new mindsets, we often live in regret and wish that we could have gone back and done things differently, right? So my question for you and for the people of the world is, how can you utilize your now mindset for your future? How can you use what you've learned up until now and apply it to your future, instead of wishing that you had done it prior? Because there's still life to live for a lot of us, right? And I think that's a big question that we need to ask ourselves, because we often find ourselves stagnant or in paralysis, thinking and wishing that we would have done something differently, not believing or understanding that that new experience or knowledge can be applied to your tomorrow, to your future, right? And so what would be your response to that? How can you use your mindset to help propel you forward, or to help get you to, or how can you utilize your mindset now that's to generate productivity, for your said dreams? And I'm going to think about it too.
It's one of those things. I would try, and I'm going to do this with myself. What I'm going to tell people to do is to try to give yourself advice as if you were giving it to somebody else. If you were somebody else looking at your situation, what would you do about it? What steps? And I think what you said was the perfect question to ask. What do you want?
Yeah.
And actually look to answer that. Don't just ask the question and then, 'cause that could lead to depression if you leave that unanswered. If you leave it as, I don't know what I want, that's depressing.
Yeah.
So try to define that. Try to answer that. Try to figure out what that is for you.
Absolutely.
And then exactly what I just said, try to figure out the steps on how to achieve it. What does that look like? Break it down. Talk to somebody about it. Talk to somebody else that's done it. If you can try to find somebody else that has accomplished what it is that you're trying to do, maybe see if you can reach out to them or something like that. Or if it's somebody famous, if they wrote a book on it or something like that. Again, in this day and age, the resources are endless with
Yeah.
internet and stuff like that. So you can look into just about everything, anything and everything to try to get better at whatever it is or try to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. So for myself, yeah, really, really ask myself what it is that I want from life, and then really break it down on how to get it, because life is too short. And like we've talked about on here before, it makes it so much easier to go after life and really get the most from it when you have purpose.
Yeah.
So maybe answering that question is in and of itself kind of a purpose, is trying to figure out who you are, what you want, and how to get it. That's
Man.
a drive right there.
That just reminded me of the beginning when we started talking. When you said something in the beginning, I wrote down.
About the
You
chicken
said-
nugget.
You're talking about living life and letting the wind take you wherever it took you.
Yeah.
And you said you talked to your boy Neil about the house and how he gave you the number to the agent or whatever the case was, and was like, well, just call him, right? And if it doesn't lead anything, then it doesn't matter, because you're right back where you were. It's not like it set you back. And that question, that thought process should be applied to our everyday life, as far as trying to reach our goals, as far as trying to reach our dreams. And a lot of us, we live in that fear of like, okay, well, I'm afraid it may not work. Well, if it doesn't work, then you're still right back where you were, right? But what happens?
Right.
What happens if it does work, right? Then you're that much closer, bro. That hit me kind of deep right there. I'm like, whoa, okay. If nothing happens of it, then I don't get hurt. But if something does happen,
trying doesn't have a negative effect on you, then why not?
why not? Yeah, exactly. That Jim Carrey, that Jim Carrey, not quote. Yes, it was a quote, and he's like, life is. I'm botching it, and I'll have to try and find that quote. He's like speaking, at a college or something like that, or crazy. And he was talking about his dad, and along the lines of, life is gonna suck, right? So it might as well suck trying to follow your dreams, or trying to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish, right?
Yeah,
and that's a huge statement, because why not? it's like you said, why not try? Because is it going to hurt you? No, I don't think so. I mean, if it's only,
As long as it's not going to hurt you, try.
exactly. I mean, and at least you're going to learn something from it, right? And it's gonna give you more knowledge, because all experience is knowledge.
Right.
And so those trials are what's going to help you, steer the direction in the direction that you want to go in. Okay, well, it's like a maze, right? Like, let me see if this way is the way. Boom. Okay, that wasn't the way. There was a roadblock
Now I
right there,
know.
dead end. Now you know. Now you know that's not the way. Now let me find a different way.
Right.
Right. And so it's exactly what you talked about, bro. It's that experience and knowledge, and navigating our way through life as if it's a maze, and getting ourselves to the other end, because life is a maze, right? Damn. That's crazy. Look, stop.
This is why we're on here. This is why we come on here, man.
Life is a maze. Life is a maze. That is nutty. Bro, life is a maze. It's not a straight shot.
And that, I think that's, at least for myself, that's something that I let negatively affect me for a long time, was realizing that it isn't a straight shot, that there are obstacles, that there are, dead ends, and I may have to backtrack a little bit. And that was a depressing thought. It's like, man, I got to start all the way over again. I got to go all the way back the way I just came. Like, man. But like you said, now you gained experience and you gained knowledge by doing that. And by the time you get back to where you were before, and then you start heading in the right direction, you're that much better off because of everything else that you just went through.
And maybe, and because that, this is how God works too, of, using your experiences to help other people, right? So now that you've got that knowledge, you can help somebody else navigate their way through the maze. You got somebody else
coming up behind you, and you say, "Hey, don't go that way."
Exactly, right? That's not the way, right? So now they're already that much better, and they're blessed, right? Because you've already went through the fire and figured out, that wasn't the way. So you're able now to help somebody else, and it's like we talked about before. There's always two sides of a story, right? There's two ways. There's two sides of a paper, two sides of a coin. There's a positive way of looking at something and a negative way of looking at something. And depending on what you choose to look at and how you choose to approach the situation is going to allow you to either let it negatively impact your success, or you can allow it to positively impact your success and utilize it as growth and progress. Man,
I love it.
Nuggets.
See, we have these conversations. It sparks these thought processes. We figure things out. We gain better understanding of the things that we're talking about. Gain better understanding of ourselves, of the people that we have around us, and we can go forward with that knowledge and new understanding and new perspective, and it makes us better people because of it.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful
one step
thing,
at a time. Man, absolutely.
The effect that this podcast has is I mean, it almost makes me want to laugh. I feel like I'm like stealing something. You know what I mean? Like I'm just gaining all of this stuff, and I'm holding on to all this knowledge, and I'm not trying to talk about like I'm this super smart dude or anything, but again, just gaining better understanding of myself, and in that of itself makes me feel good. I know that the people that we get on this show are saying all the same things. You know what I mean? Yeah. So,
it's the feeling that you get though from it, right? It's the experience that you get. It's like, wow, all of this knowledge that I just got from this, it's mind blowing. It's like, oh my goodness, how can I utilize what I just learned and apply it to life right after we get off of this? And that's the important thing. Right, is putting those new thoughts and ideas in effect and seeing how it changes your life. Because I got a page full just from you just talking, just from you just saying just certain words were just provoking thoughts, and it was just like man,
sparks something in you. Yeah,
exactly. And that's why it's important, again, people, to have these type of conversations with somebody that you can. If you don't have anybody, well, this is the spot to be.
You got us.
You got us. You got us.
So hit us up. So again, thank you everybody so much for tuning in. We wouldn't be able to do this if we didn't have anybody tuning in. You know what I mean? You and I would just be on the phone talking to each other, which isn't that's not the end of the world either. But to the degree that we're able to do it, and the feedback that we've gotten over the year and a half that we've been doing this, it just feels really good, and I'm super appreciative of everybody that has been a part of it and tunes in. I'm just so excited to keep this going, keep it growing, like we say.
Man, we can't keep the knowledge to ourselves. We can't keep all the juice to ourselves, people. We gotta
right, and don't keep it to yourselves either. You know what I mean? I know you got something up there. You guys have experiences and knowledge that you're just hanging on to, listening to this podcast, being like, man, I wish I could go on there and talk about it. Come on here and talk about it. Help us out. Help give us more understanding and perspective, and help relieve some of that built up pressure that you have from those mental warfares. That's why we're here.
Man.
Till next time.
I love
Thanks,
that.
everybody.